For our visitors, we started a sermon series last week talking about the Sabbath rest. And I want to move on today to talk about that. Last week, we began by talking about the Sabbath and why we need to keep the Sabbath. And there were 5 reasons that we gave very quickly. 1, it is because God has commanded it. Number 2 is because the Sabbath is a sign that we are God's holy people. So the scriptures say. Number 3 is because the Sabbath belongs not just to us and is not just a witness to the friends around us, but it is for our children and our children's children, because it is for the generations to come as a witness to them. Hence, we need to keep the Sabbath. Number 4 is because God says, stop when it comes to the Sabbath, and I will bless you. Sometimes we think that if we dishonor the Sabbath and work on the Sabbath, we can get ahead of our friends and our workmates because we put in 1 extra day of work when everybody was on a break and we get ahead. But God says, no, stop. I will bless you. If you want to get ahead, don't break God's Sabbath. Instead, honor it and let God be the one to bless you. And then number 5, we said that the Sabbath is a testimony and a statement of faith that God will provide for my needs in the 5 days, or rather the 6 days that I work, by blessing me for the 7th. And we looked at the text in the story of Moses and manna from heaven and how he instructed the people on the 6th day, collect twice as much as you have done on every other day, and it did not go rotten, it did not smell, it did not get maggots in it, because God conducted a Sabbath miracle to provide for them on the 7th day. And so, in a very real sense, my honoring the Sabbath is a testament of faith that I believe that if I do what God has instructed me to do, He will bless even on the 7th day where I may not seemingly have enough. So we need to keep the Sabbath. And I promised you would come today and would look at the question of how then do we honor the Sabbath and make it holy. Many Orthodox Jews, what are called the Hasidic Jews, if you go to Israel, you see them, they wear black long trench coats and they have a cap on their head, and they oftentimes have very long beards, and they're Orthodox, very conservative, keeping the Jewish laws to the best of their ability to the letter. Many of these Orthodox Jews take the Sabbath very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that they have an elaborate set of rules as to what one can and cannot do on the Sabbath. For example, you are only allowed to take a maximum of 3,000 steps from your house on the Sabbath day. Any more than that, and you have broken the Sabbath. You are not allowed to write, to erase, or to tear anything. You're not allowed to carry anything on the Sabbath day outside of your house. You cannot take something that is in your private sphere and take it to a public sphere. That is considered work. So, you can't, for example, take a pot from your home and take it out into the streets to, a shop or something. You cannot carry from your private space into your public space. And just to show you how seriously this is, if you're chewing gum in your mouth, you cannot come out onto the streets, because that is carrying it from your private space into the public space, and that is breaking the Sabbath. There are no business transactions on the Sabbath. Driving or riding in cars and other vehicles is not allowed. Shopping is not allowed. You're not allowed to use your telephone on the Sabbath. You must turn on or turn everything off that uses electricity, including lights and radios and televisions and computers and air conditioning and alarm clocks. You cannot switch them on or turn them off on the Sabbath. So if it's a hot day, you need to have switched on your air conditioning before the Sabbath began. Or you get one of these electric timers that you put into the socket and it switches on automatically, switches off automatically. But you yourself cannot switch it on and you cannot switch it off because that is considered work. If you're living on the 3rd floor or maybe the 6th floor of a building and you need to go down, it's still within your 3,000 steps, or to go up, you are not allowed to punch in the lift the floor you want to go to. That is considered work. And so they have Sabbath lifts that on the Sabbath day, they just keep going up and down, and they stop at every floor going down, and they stop at every floor going up. So all you need to do is walk in and patiently wait until you get to the floor you needed. It will automatically open on every floor. But if you punch the number of the floor, that is considered work. There is to be no cooking, no baking, no kindling a fire, no gardening or grass mowing. You do not do laundry on the Sabbath day. These things are forbidden. Now, all this sounds a little bit too much. And I'm not sure that we need to take things that far. But I will say this one thing. What it does indicate, even though we may think it's gone a little too far, is the desire of these Hasidic Jews to honor God. They really, really want to obey. And I cheer them for that, even where I may feel it's gone a little too far. I cheer them, and if I were to err, it is better we err on the side of obedience, even excess obedience, as opposed to err on the side of disobedience, where we do not honor the Sabbath day of the Lord. Some people define the Sabbath this way. The Sabbath means doing anything that is not my usual job. And so I'm a medical doctor. Yes, I don't go into the clinic on the Sabbath day, but I go shopping and I go do all sorts of other things. And that is a very weak definition of what Sabbath rest means. And when somebody tells me it means doing anything except my usual job, I tell them what you should tell anyone when a disputable thing comes up and you need to give a response. I tell them, show me where it says that in the Bible. It doesn't. It says rest. That's what it says. Not do anything else except your usual job. And what a Sabbath rest means is that we rest. Let me go on and give you, I think, 5 things that would help us honor the Sabbath correctly. And begin with this first one. How do we define the Sabbath rest? Number 1, I believe it means you need to unplug from all work. Sabbath rest means unplugging from the hurry, the rat race, the frantic pace at which the world spins at, from the adrenaline rush, from the addiction to the adrenaline kick, from the worry and anxiety we live with each day, from the fast pace of life, from our addiction to our phone notification ping. You know how when an SMS comes in, your phone wobbles, vibrates a bit, and then you hear ding, that ka-ping. Did you know that you're addicted to it? 2 years ago, I decided I want to silence all notification on my phone. I don't want to hear SMS pings. I don't want to hear when, WhatsApp comes in. I don't want to know how many emails I haven't read or how many came in every time it comes in. It's vibrating in my pocket. I don't want that. This thing is not supposed to control my life. I am the master of my phone. Why is it that it's the one who tells me all the time, attend to me. I'm talking to you. Pick me up. Attend to me. It's not my master. And so I decided I'm cutting off all notification on my phone. And even on my computer, I'm silencing all notification. I don't want to go onto my computer and see you have 1,327 emails that have not been read. It just leaves me feeling guilty and I'm falling further behind. Keep quiet. I don't need you on. So I did. I switched all these things off. And that was that. But about 3 hours later, I'm thinking to myself, this phone hasn't talked to me yet. Have people forgotten I'm around? Why? And I'd be picking up my phone, and even though it wasn't pinging now, every, 10 minutes, I'm checking, did I get anything? No, not yet. Oh, did I get anything? No. Something came in. And I realized I'm addicted to it. Even to the point where if nothing did come in, I'm wondering, is this phone working? Maybe I need to switch it off and switch it on again. Maybe it's got a glitch in it. And I was addicted to that ping and to the notification. It took me a good 6 months to the point where I didn't need the ping. You wake up in the morning and it's tiddy, 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 tiddy. It's like music, because that's when they're all coming in, when everybody's woken up and they're updating their, Facebook profile. They're sending WhatsApp. They're catching up with the day. How did you sleep? What did your cat eat? All those sorts of things. And you're addicted to it. If you don't believe me, switch off your notifications and see what happens to you. You become like, a guy who's on withdrawal. Because you need this thing to ping. The Sabbath rest means that I, unplug from all that. Of course, we still need to do our weekly grocery shopping. We still need to attend to our emails. We must run around and visit friends and visit sick relatives and engage in the countless social and business meetings, but not on the Lord's Sabbath day. And this is why He has given you 6 days to do all those things, so that on the 7th you may unplug and do no work but rest. This is what the Sabbath means. You don't have to shop on a Sunday. In fact, we now have the privilege of some, nakumats that are open 24/7. Go shop at 3 a.m. in the morning. There are no lines. You can do it quicker than any other time. Nobody will disturb you. You have 6 days to do all this, so that on the Sabbath day you can stop and rest. That's what it means, unplug. Number 2, do only what is restful for your body, your soul, your mind, and what recharges your batteries. Sabbath rest means doing what is restful for your body, what is refreshing for your soul, what is revitalizing for your mind, and what recharges your batteries. For some of us, that's going to be being with friends. That I'm an extrovert, I love being with friends. I'm a sanguine, I love being with friends. Make that your Sabbath rest. Go be with friends and have a great afternoon, have a great morning, enjoy, laugh, cheer, do whatever it takes. For some of us, it's, my wife loves on a Sabbath day to bake a cake, and she takes out one of these cookery books and, turns to something she's not done before, and she spends a Sabbath exploring and learning how to bake. She herself doesn't eat it because she, is sensitive to gluten, and so she doesn't take wheat products, but she makes it, and then, the rest of the family, our Sabbath rest is eating the cakes. And so we do that when she's done with the baking. For others, it's being out in nature. You love to be in open spaces. And going for a hike for you is about the most refreshing thing that could happen to your soul. For others of us, it will be music. Or maybe it's reading, that I really enjoy to read. And just to sit back on a deck chair and enjoy, reading. Read the newspaper from the Daily Nation title to the back where it says who owns this paper. And that's what my Sabbath rest is. But watch out. You spoil your rest if rest has to be productive. In other words, I'm reading and I love reading and I love to sit back and pick up a great story and read it, for the pleasure of reading. But then I begin to read and say to myself, I must read, finish this book today because I need to discuss it with my staff on Tuesday. That's no longer rest. That is production now. It has become work and it is no longer restful. If my wife was to say, I love to just bake one cake and to enjoy learning a new skill, but now I've got to bake 5 because on Monday we're visiting this person in hospital, on Tuesday we're going to see this family, and I need to make 5 cakes so that I have them for the week. That is no longer rest. That is now work. And so refresh your soul in the way that is uniquely you, but watch out that you don't spoil your rest by turning it into production, trying to beat a deadline, trying to do something within a time frame, trying to accomplish fast. One of the things I've recently discovered, I have some really thick books that I need to read. I was reading, or rather, one of the ones I needed to get through was King Leopold's Ghost. It's about the Congo and the colonization, the terrible, terrible colonization of the Congo by the Belgians in, about 100 years ago. And I was reading this book, or rather I needed to read this book. It's a thick tome. So I discovered that I can actually download the audio file, And instead of reading it word for word, I can listen to it while I'm doing something else. And I discovered, it came at $2 because there was a freebie being given, so I downloaded it quickly. And I discovered that I can speed up the speech so that instead of listening to it at 1x, I can listen to it at 2.5x, and everything sounds a little squeaky, but you can get through the book in, 2 hours. And so now I began consuming books at 2.5x, Now this is not Sabbath, because that's production now. If I enjoyed listening to audio files, I can do that. Speeding it up is trying to get a job done in as quick, as little time as possible. That becomes production. Do not spoil your Sabbath that way. Number 3, Sabbath rest means worship and gathering with God's people. Because this is a holy day to the Lord. And because this day is a day to remember that He saved us from sin and our bondage to sin, and He set us apart as His holy people. And we want to celebrate God on the Sabbath day. And so to be here and to worship Him and to enjoy sitting at the feet of His word and learning something majestic about our God, this is good. And you want to make that part of your Sabbath rhythm. Listen to His word. Nothing should overshadow this aspect of the Sabbath day, that is a day that is holy to the Lord. As a practice of mine, when I do fly, I try never to fly on a Sunday, because I want to be on the ground, I want to be with God's people, I want to honor the Sabbath, I want to worship. And so I never fly on a Sunday. If you watch my habits, I always leave on an international flight on Sunday evening at the end of the day, or maybe on Monday. But during service time, whether I'm going or coming, I always try and arrive in time for the weekend services or leave only after the weekend services, because I want to be with God's people. And so too should you. Going to play golf instead of going to church, this dishonors the Sabbath of the Lord. There is a way that you can go and play golf, and I'll talk about it in a minute, but don't do it in place of church, in place of being with God's people. It's not even good enough to take a podcast with you on the golf course. That is not being with God's people. There's something beautiful and holy about gathering together. Living in a world where you know that the plausibility structures support your faith. I'm not the only one who believes in God. Everybody here loves the Lord and is here to worship Him. We are a community and a family. This there is no substitute to. Watching on TV doesn't do that. You need to belong. And this is a place to be. Hebrews 10 and verse 24 and 25 says, "Let us consider how we may spur one another towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and doing all the more so as we see the day of our Lord's return approaching." Number 4, about honoring the Sabbath. Sabbath rest means that you give your employees, your house manager, your gardener, your house help a Sabbath day off. This is what Exodus 20 and verse 8 says. Deuteronomy 5, and verse 6. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, nor you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. And let me say it clearly, guys. If you have employees, it is your responsibility before God to give them the means and the space that they too can obey God and honor the Sabbath. Because they don't have the power to negotiate it from you. And if you decided, well, if you don't come to work, then we're not paying you, or you're losing your job, then you have not made it possible for them to honor the Sabbath as God commands it. And so God says within that fourth commandment that you must ensure that your servants also get a Sabbath. It's your responsibility as an employer. Now, let me say two things here. One, there are some who say that the Sabbath is on a Saturday. It has to be on a Saturday. If it's not a Saturday, it's not a real Sabbath. To which I say, show me where it says that in the Bible. You see, it doesn't. It says it's a rhythm that God established. For 6 days you will labor hard and then rest on the Sabbath. He didn't say that you will labor hard for 6 days and then rest on Saturday. Now, we need to keep that rhythm. And it may be that as an employer, you have to be open up on the weekend. Maybe it's a restaurant and you just have to keep the doors open. It's part of the trade, it's part of the business. I don't have a problem with that as long as you honor the Sabbath and you allow your employees to honor the Sabbath. That there is a day when they too can rest. And so as a business, if you're a restaurant, yes, you can be open on Sunday. I don't have a problem with that. But you must let your employees have one day off. And a lot of restaurants actually close down on a Monday so that their staff can take a Sabbath day off. I'm a pastor. Saturday and Sunday means I'm at work. We have a service now on Saturday evening at 5 o'clock in the evening. Preparing for that, getting ready to come and preach, the worship team getting ready to lead in worship. It's a full day's job. And so I don't rest on Saturdays. In fact, now, because we started the service 2 weeks ago, that's it. I'm not putting any meetings on Saturdays where I can help it, because my Saturday is given to getting ready for the evening service when I'm preaching. And then on Sunday like today, I'm preaching. This is not my Sabbath. I will preach today after I'm done with the morning services. I have an engagement with some guests who have come to visit us. And then after that, I'm going to see one of our members who has been struggling with cancer for the last 2 years. And that will be my day gone. I'll be back home maybe about 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. I do not count this to be a Sabbath day for me. I count it to be a full work day. But tomorrow is my Sabbath. And the important thing is to keep the rhythm of 6 days of labor and 1 day of rest. Now, for some of you, letting your servants go off can be a real challenge. Especially, let me give an example of young mothers with nursing babies and with a family. Because getting ready for Sunday means I have to get the baby up, wash the baby, change the baby, get ready to come for the service. I've got 3 other kids and they are running, amok in the house, and I need to, catch them, quiet them, wash them, clothe them, feed them, get ready for the service. And the morning is really hectic. There is no rest. There is no way I could let my house help go. She needs to come in and make breakfast. She needs to come in and, help me with the kids so that we can all tumble into the car by 10:30, drive like nuts to get to the church by 11. And when I come back home, we need to feed these kids and we need to, get them ready for school tomorrow. Sunday is too difficult for me as a young mother to let my kids or rather to let my house help go. Okay, understood. But there is a way out. We've started a Saturday evening service. And so if you're a young mother, why not come for the Saturday evening service? Because your maid or your house help is at work on Saturday. And she can help you with all that and get the kids into the car. You come for the service. We have Sunday school. We'll take care of the kids. And when you go back home, dinner is ready and they can retire for the night and you can sleep. And then the next morning, she will have the opportunity to have a Sabbath rest. And because you're not going anywhere, you were in church yesterday, you don't have to get the kids ready for anything. They can play the whole day. She can make the food before, and so you don't need to do breakfast, you don't need to do lunch, you don't need to do dinner. It's all ready, and she's ahead of you in that, and she can take a Sabbath rest. Let me say this to all of us. The temptation is to give a house help like that a 6-hour Sabbath. Please make breakfast and help me get the kids ready for church. We leave at 10 o'clock and I need you to come back by 4 o'clock because you have to get dinner ready. The kids need to be gotten ready for school tomorrow. So she gets 6 days. That is not a Sabbath. And you have not allowed her to have the rest that God has commanded for her sake. As an employer, you must give your employees and your servants a Sabbath rest. And so figure it out. I'll tell you this, guys. If I was not the pastor of this church, I would come to church on Saturday. You know why? Because it allows that I can actually wake up on a Sunday morning and completely rest. I'm not going anywhere. I can just enjoy a full day of just resting. No calls, nothing. Just enjoy a full day. If I played golf, I'd come for the Saturday service. Then I can go and play golf the next day, and I have gathered with God's people already. The Saturday service that has started has actually opened up some wonderful opportunities to help you manage your Sabbath rest. And so consider it. It's a help. Okay, let's keep moving on. Give your servants the opportunity to be able to also enjoy the Sabbath. Number 5, you can already see that if you're gonna honor the Sabbath as you should, you need to prepare yourself beforehand. Don't expect it to happen, kyodudo or, last minute like that. You need to have planned. If there are meals that need to be made beforehand, plan for them. If there's washing and house cleaning and all those things that you've been tempted to do on a Sunday or on your Sabbath day, plan for it. And then you can rest on your Sabbath day and don't need to do those things. Now, of course, there are times when an emergency comes up. And Jesus was trying to teach the Pharisees. In fact, there are many, many exchanges with the Pharisees about this. He healed a man on a Sabbath day. Is that work? The Pharisees said yes. And Jesus said, the one thing that you cannot exclude from the Sabbath day is the opportunity to be kind to others and to be a blessing. And so yes, I did heal the man on a Sabbath day, but this is the mercy of God for this man. And then he said, which one of you, if your donkey falls into a hole, will not get the donkey out? And of course they had to agree, okay, you can't leave an animal in a hole, maybe with a broken leg for 24 hours because you're observing the Sabbath. Common sense says we must rescue the animal and care for it. So here's the principle. Occasionally, the donkey falls into the hole, and we need to break the Sabbath and do what is wise and kind. There's no problem with that. When an emergency comes up, do what is needful. But if your donkey keeps falling into the hole every Sabbath day, that's a problem. You need to deal with that. Because it's not the donkey. So if you have to always wash on a Sabbath, that's not the donkey anymore. That's your lack of preparation for the Sabbath. And so I want to give you a term that hasn't been used before, but I want to use it. I think one of the 6 days that we work has to be what I call a pre-Sabbath. The day when I get ready for the Sabbath. The day when I do all the 100 of things that would be a distraction for me on the Sabbath. a pre-Sabbath. And for many of you, it's a Saturday. Run around, shop, go visit friends, stay in the office and do extra work. But do it on the pre-Sabbath. You work 5 days. On the pre-Sabbath, the 6th day, work as hard as you can, as you need to, so that on the Sabbath day, there are no donkeys in the hole and you can rest. And so prepare for it and be intentional about it. Let me give you, I told you I'd give you 5. Let me give you a 6th one. This one is bakshish. This one is extra. This one, I'm, pushing things a little far. And, if you hold a gun to my head, I won't die for this one. But let me share it with you anyway, okay? Number 6. In Deuteronomy chapter 5, it says, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But on the 7th day, it shall be a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In it you will not do any work, and then it goes on to say, your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle. Now, this was written for a people in an agricultural society, community. So even the land, not just the ox and the cows and the donkeys got a Sabbath rest, but even the land, God commanded that every 7th year, it was not to be tilled, it was to lie fallow so that it could recover, and it was to have a Sabbath for all those Sabbaths that you did not give it in the last 6 years. The 7th year was to be a Sabbath for the land, because this was an agricultural community. We're not agriculturalists, or at least many of us here are not agriculturalists. So let me read this in modern translation. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, nor your mobile phone, nor your email, nor any of your computers, nor your technology, nor your Facebook profile, nor your Twitter or your WhatsApp account, that your mind and your body may rest as well. Okay. I'm pushing this one a little far, okay? I won't die for this one, but I think you get the sense of what I mean. For many of us, the thing that helps us dishonor the Sabbath is this technology. God created the world, and it was night and it was day, the 6th day, okay? And then man came along and created electricity, and he banished the night. And so now we're all struggling, technology. We have now, mobile phones that ping us and buzz us and, speak to us in the middle of the night. They say the thing that destroys your ability to sleep well at night is the bright white screen of your iPad or your mobile phone or your computer. You should not look at a bright white screen, even your TV, for at least 3 hours before you go to bed, and you will sleep better. But who of us can ignore an SMS notification and we open up our phone and we destroy our sleep? Okay? So maybe on the Sabbath day, we need to switch off all our technology for the Sabbath rest. You know how you go to your computer and you say, I want to check up the nation and see what's there. And so you read 1 or 2 stories, and then you say, let me open up my email and see whether anybody's written. And yes, there's been 15 new emails that have come in, and you say, let me just have a quick look at them. And you have a quick look. And before you know it, 2 hours have disappeared as you have answered what you consider to be important and urgent. And your Sabbath day has been destroyed. Maybe you need to do things like, on your wireless, put an electric timer so that your wireless switches off on your Sabbath day and comes on at midnight at the end of your Sabbath day. Google, as one of their company policies, switch off their servers on the weekend so that their staff do not get business mail on their phones. And then they switch them on after the weekend so that their staff can rest. Maybe you need to put, I have an app on on my mobile phone, Android, that is called Silent Time. And what it does is you set it up so that for me, it's set up every day at 8 p.m. in the evening. It switches off all volume and notification, and if you call me, I won't get the phone. I won't get the call. And then at 7 o'clock in the morning, it puts them all on again. And I can see what missed calls I had, and I can get calls then. So at night, I don't hear any pings and I don't hear any, telephone calls. However, you have a white list on that app for emergencies and for people who you want to get through, even in spite of the fact that you put it on. And on my white list are my wife, my children, the pastors of the church, and the elders of the church. No other call comes in. And so I can enjoy my night's sleep without a telephone call. If there's an emergency, I'll tell you a little secret. If there's a real emergency and you need to get me, trouble one of the other pastors. Because they can call me and it will come in. But if you call me directly, at night it won't come in. And on my Sabbath day, it won't come in. Because it automatically switches off my phone on the Sabbath and switches it on after the Sabbath. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with my computer. I actually wrote to a software developer for Apple computers and asked them, I really like this program you have, but could you make it so that on a password, I cannot switch on my computer for a period of time? They told me it's a very good idea and haven't written to me again. But I was looking for a way to silence my computer on a Sabbath so that I can't switch it on. So maybe you need to switch off your computer, your phone, and all those things that help you disobey God on the Sabbath. Let me conclude with just a couple of quick words. You can see that you will not be able to have a Sabbath rhythm unless you are intentional about it. And so do something about it. Think about it, plan for it, become intentional, and do something about it. Number 2, don't turn the Sabbath into a burden. God gave it to us as a gift to bless us. And the 2 words that he puts against the Sabbath is joy and celebration. And so keep the spirit of the Sabbath right. Don't turn it into a burden. It's for you. It's a gift to rest. Keep that the spirit, and don't make it a long list of commands and burdensome things that you need to do. Number 3, don't get clever with God about the Sabbath and find all sorts of ingenious ways to excuse your breaking it. Let me give you an example. The very same Hasidic Jews who have all these long lists of how to keep the Sabbath have one way of getting around the first one of 3,000 steps. Because you're only allowed to take 3,000 steps from your home, okay? And then you've broken the Sabbath if you take one step over. So what they do is, on the day before the Sabbath, if I know I need to go to visit John, who lives, 7,000, steps away from me, I am 4,000 steps short. So I can't go to his house, okay? So what they do is they get a rope, and they nail one end of the rope inside their house, and then they stretch out the rope all the way, 4,000 steps, half a kilometer or whatever that is, and they declare that rope to be part of their home. And so now, from the end of the rope, they can now start counting 3,000 steps, and they consider themselves to have maintained the Sabbath. You're getting clever with God, and you're not fooling anyone. So don't get clever with God and try and play those tricks in terms of the Sabbath. Rest, that's the spirit of it. And then finally, don't judge others for the way they keep their Sabbath. Every man will give an account before the Lord. No one has appointed you to be a Sabbath policeman, going around telling people what they should or should not be doing. And so don't judge others for the way they keep their Sabbath. Now I pray that you will take this teaching and learn how to enjoy the Sabbath rest that God has set in place for you and I. Not to be a burden, but to be a joy and a cause of celebration. So why don't you rise to your feet with me and let's pray and bless you as you go into the rest of your Sabbath day. Father, thank you for this gift that is a Sabbath rest for us. And we ask that as your people go into the rest of this day, because today is the Sabbath of many who are here, Father, would you bless them to enjoy it and to celebrate it in the true spirit of Sabbath keeping, while they honor you and they worship you for this day that you have given us. May it be a delightful day that we look forward to every week, when we can rest and refresh as a gift from God. We pray these things, praying that, Lord, you would bless the week ahead of us. As we go to our jobs, would you help us to be productive, and would you give us a good reward for the energy and the time and the thought that we put into these jobs. Thank you for the privilege of having a job that can meet our needs, even as you provide through that job. We do not forget those who do not have, and we pray that this would be the week of their breakthrough, when a job would come. And so we pray, and all God's people said, Amen. Go and enjoy your Sabbath rest. God bless you.